Well, guys, the scandals out of Holyrood involving the SNP and their MPs keep coming thick and fast. Now, we all know about the sturgeon salmon witch hunt that could see ministers fall in the next 72 hours, John Swinney being chief among them. But now we have a whole new scandal related to the same sort of allegations that started the salmon disaster. It's being reported by the Scotsman that this man's complaints come against a male and female SNP MP, along with claims that the SNP in London tried to cover it up. Because this one here is not north of the border, it's actually down south, involving a London pub and SNP MPs. But even more shocking is Ian Blackford being named for what the accuser states was an ambush by having the accused in the room when he was called in to talk about it. These sorts of allegations and claims of cover-ups by the SNP do not look good at all, especially not with what's going on around the same sort of things, just this time not involving Alex Salmond, or indeed a witch hunt. In this case, they're being accused of a cover-up and some ambush on the actual accuser. And I feel it should also be noted that these accusations are not as serious as some of the ones involving Salmond, but they're obviously still concerning for the person involved. Now, my first wonder here is if this is going to end up costing taxpayers millions like the last SNP cock-up. It is very possible, let's be honest. But anyway, enough of me talking, let's take a look at what the Scotsman has to say about it. It headlines: New sexual harassment scandal rocks the SNP. An SNP staff member in the House of Commons has alleged he was sexually harassed by two of his party's MPs. Which obviously is not what you want to hear after the past couple of weeks and indeed the election coming up in just a couple of months. According to a report in the Daily Record, the man who has remained anonymous was firstly harassed by a male MP and then at a later date by a female MP. He also accused SNP's Westminster leader Ian Blackford of an ambush when he was asked into his office to discuss the first incident, only to find the male MP involved already there. The SNP have said that the man's account of this meeting is highly inaccurate and that it has provided the staff member with information on appropriate ways to raise a complaint and offers of support. Which sounds to me like they're saying essentially, don't take it to the press, we're trying to keep this under wraps. I could be wrong, of course, but that's certainly what it sounds like. The revelations come after months of turmoil for the SNP, and we already know about all this. I'm not reading through it. It says further down, however, the reports claim the SNP staffer believes his allegations have been happily swept this under the carpet by the party. That actually makes no fucking sense. He claimed the first alleged incident involved a male MP in the Water Poet pub in 2016, when the MP perched himself on the side of the couch and started putting his fingers down the back of my collar, touching me inappropriate there. He was also grabbing my hair. Which, if true, obviously makes me think, what the actual fuck? That is some rather suspicious behaviour. Of course, it could be nothing, but it's definitely creepy if you ask me. He goes on, he said he did not take the matter any further, but someone else had alerted Mr. Blackford, so this is where Ian Blackford comes into the mix. He calls me into the office and the other MP is sitting on the couch crying. He said the MP allegedly apologised. I wouldn't view this as mediation. I would view it as an ambush, he said, and I would have to actually agree with you on that one. If you didn't know he was there in advance, then it's certainly an ambush, there's no other way about it. The complainer said the separate incident involving a female MP saying inappropriate things happened in January last year in the Strangers Bar in Westminster, when the politician was clearly very, very drunk. She was grabbing my hand, pulling me closer, and saying to me things like, "You should come home with me." So she was being a saucy little devil then. As I said, not as damaging accusations as the ones that were levelled against Alex Salmond, but still not good for the MPs involved. And I don't know who they are, and I don't even want to know at this point. It doesn't even fucking matter. No doubt it'll be made illegal within the next couple of hours to even talk about who they are anyway. That is, if it's not already. It goes on, the staffer complained to the SNP last month, but as he's not a party member, Party Governance Officer Ian McCann emailed a response that said, "I have to be clear that the National Secretary can't look at a complaint in the context of sexual harassment in the workplace. Under the terms of the Code of Conduct, it would have to be examined solely as sexual harassment by one member against another member. If you want to make a complaint of sexual harassment within the parliamentary estate, that can only be investigated and dealt with under the terms of the independent scheme provided by Westminster." Which then makes me wonder why the fuck Ian Blackford got involved in the first place. Obviously, that is a bit questionable, and with the guy accusing him of essentially an ambush, that's even more questionable for him. I think we can put the questions there alongside the expensive claim ones that we have. You know, the ones where he spends 250 odd grand a year. The SNP have obviously responded though, so let's see what they had to say. An SNP spokesman said the individual has been provided information on the appropriate ways to raise a complaint and offers of support. The picture painted of the meeting in Ian Blackford's office is highly inaccurate. That is why it is essential for everyone involved that due process is followed. Advice has been offered on how to make a formal complaint so that a proper investigation can be carried out. Now obviously the SNP are going to come out and say that, especially defending Ian Blackford. But let's be honest, does the SNP have any credibility left after the Alex Salmond, Nicola Sturgeon scandal that we're still dealing with at this point? I would suggest they probably don't. Can you believe a word that comes out of any SNP spokesman or MP's mouth at this point? You guys will have to let me know down in the comments, but it is pretty damning that Ian Blackford has been named in this. As you could see, there was no one else named, so that is rather telling. Of course, he hasn't actually done anything directly wrong, but what he did there, if it was an actual ambush, is certainly questionable in my mind. But I do have to say, it is rather funny that another shitstorm is coming down on the SNP right now. They are taking it from every direction, and rightly so. If any of this is true, and indeed the salmon bullshit as well, then they certainly deserve it. I guess they're just happy that wee Jimmy Cranky's name has not been involved in this one.
We're off!